figured before we actually start the Gemara, it is worthwhile looking at the Akdama to Chullin, a couple of background information is definitely worthwhile before we jump into the Masechta, especially because it's not, for many guys, it's not the most common Masechta that you learn. So it's worthwhile a bit of background information. So the truth is it, the question that's worthwhile is what's the Makor, what's the source for Chullin? So first of all, Chullin comes from, why is it called Chullin? We should start with that. Why is Masechta called Chullin? So Chullin means Lashon Chol. So what's in contrast to?
Moed? Or
Kochim. So in there's Seder Kochim, most things pertain to specifically Beis Mikdash Center. Those are Kochim. As opposed to Kochim, the opposite is so Chullin deals with regular meat consumed by human beings for non-sacrimony purpose. So this is outside of Beis Mikdash related. So that, now the question is, what's the source for it? So let's take a look together at source number one. The Chumash says, Ki yarchiv Hashem lokechas gevulcha kasher diber lach. So when God expands the borders, v'amarta ochla vasar ki saveh nafshecha lachol basar. B'chol avas nafshecha tochal basar. So, what will, after, first of all, what time period are we referring to here? If this is in Parshas Re'eh, what probably are we referring to? When the Jewish people eventually brought the land of Israel. So what will happen? All of a sudden we have a tava, we want to have the desire for meat. And, after all, ki yerchek mimcha makom asher yivchar Hashem lokach l'shem shemoshav v'zavachta miyukacham mitzoncha asher natzon Hashem lach kasher tzivisicha v'achata b'shrecha b'chava nafshecha. Now, here's what's interesting. Wow, I can't go to Yerushalayim, it's too far. All right, can't go to Yerushalayim to offer your zvicha there. You could do it in your backyard. Now, the Gemara will learn that just, even though it says B'karocha mitzoncha, it really applies to all animals and behemoths and chayas and ofos, right? Not just tzon and bakar. Now, we already see, now here's what the interesting language here is the following. What does it mean, just like God, like Hashem commanded you? That God gave you, that I commanded. Commanded what? What exactly did God command? Right? Now, if you take a look at Rashi in source 2 at the bottom. So you know how like there's people who want to say, oh wait, there's Torah Shebachtav, that Torah Shebal Peh, the rabbis made it up, right? It was all, Moshe, Rabbeinu, the rabbis, right? Art Scroll, whoever it is made it up. Here's actually one of the sources for we see here that Torah Shebal Peh is embedded in Torah Shebachtav. Why? Because what's the pasuk say? Zavachta kasher shviticha. Says Rashi, Lamashi is tzivui b'zvicha yachishchot. Vein hilchos shchita shenemru lemoshe misinai. Because the Torah seems to imply, oh yeah, by the way, you want to know about how to shecht? Okay, just like I taught you. What do we see? We see from here two things. One, there's that the way you shecht for kosher food, meaning what's eaten for mundane purposes, is similar to how you do it for sacramonial purposes. Right? Because the shechita will actually be the same rules that will apply to how you slaughter meat will apply when you also shecht in the Beis HaMikdash. And two, we see from here that it's so, if I were to say to you, oh, but you want to know how to shecht the meat? Hey, just like I taught you last week. Oh, what's that implying? That I taught you last week. Right? So we see here, by the way, that we see that Torah Shebal Peh is in fact really embedded in the psukim themselves. That's what Rashi says. Oh yeah, you want to know Hilchot Shchita? Of course, Hilchot Moshe Misinai. So you're not necessarily going to see, as we're going to come across a little bit later, where do we know these specific details for Shchita that are proper? We're not going to even see a Makor in Chumash, because the answer is always going to be Hilchot Moshe Misinai. Right? And we'll become a pasuk with Hilchot Moshe Misinai, which is much more axiomatic. Now, what's important from this pasuk, if you had this pasuk, did Bnei Yisrael eat non-korbanot meat in the desert, based on this pasuk, what would you say? Did they or didn't they? Did they eat non-korbanot meat? If one guy said, I'm hungry, I'm going to shech myself some food in my backyard, was he permitted to do so in the midbar? Based on the psukim themselves. What does it appear? Look at the pasuk. What would you say, yes or no? And why?
It's ambiguous because it just says that we taught you how to shech a certain way.
Okay, so that could be for kavanas purposes.
Right. So exactly. That's why I feel it's ambiguous because it could be that for normal.
Okay.
Normal
Look at pasuk Chaf. What does it say? That what? Oh. Okay, but where? But when? Eat when you want to, but when? When can you do that? No. So, it appears only you're in Israel. And look at Rashi says in source number. Take a look at source Rashi. Aval b'midbar nasar lehem basar chulin. You could not eat the basar chulin in the midbar. If you wanted to bring, so let's say you wanted meat, you needed to bring it as a korban shlamim, and you bring it as a korban shlamim, you get to participate in eating of the meat. But one would not be allowed just to shach everything in their backyard. It had to be brought as a korban. So what we see from here, that the whole idea of meat shechuta, that we would actually eat meat that was shechted for chulin purposes, only takes place in Eretz Yisrael. Whereas in the midbar, it was forbidden to do so. But however, the technical way of doing the shechita was the exact same. So now you apply the technical procedures that took place in the Mishkan, you apply them to your backyard, only in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Now, this Ramban is very sensitive to this, and this is a very important Ramban. He's going to expand, and here he's going to mention, and we're going to see this, and one of the reasons why I'm doing the Shir P'ticha is because there's a couple of things that we need to know. And there's a Ramban will mention a couple of important points that are facts. Let's take a look at this Ramban. So what I pointed out, the Ramban actually really spells out in detail. Meaning, the Ramban says, when it says Ka'ashir Tzivi in Pasuk, Pasuk Chaf Aleph, Ka'ashir Tzivi Sicha, just like I commanded you, says the Ramban, again, Al Peh Mahalacha Moshe Misana Melamed. Now, what are the details of this? So here's the Ramban. So what are these things? So this is I meant to bring actually my other sefer, which has pictures and diagrams in it. I forgot it. I have Sichas Chullin. I don't know if they have it here, but the truth is, this is on a human being too. What do we have here? Two main pipes. One is trachea and esophagus. And the difference between them: the trachea is used for air, and esophagus is for food. And if they get mixed up, right, that's what happens. So, what do we see from here? Okay, shechuta. So, this is actually a true story. I mentioned this in Minyan the other day. I think I did. No, actually, maybe I didn't. I'm very friendly with a guy at York who's a Muslim who owns the hot dog stand by the loop. You know, there's a loop there. You pass by a million times. The buses, right in front, not far from Hillel, by the student center. Hot dog stand. It's owned by a Muslim guy. We're very, very friendly. He's from Iraq, and he has halal meat. You know, he's a very, shall we say, level-headed, very thoughtful. He always reminds us that Jews and Muslims are cousins and we need to get along, and it's only because of these crazy radicals that are destroying Islam. I mean, he's a very, very, very nice guy. He likes to talk to me a long time and try to sometimes run away from him. But he's a really, really nice guy. We used to do some work together, but that's not for now. So, and he was telling me, halal and kosher, it's the same thing. We both use a knife for shechita. So, that is true. But they don't have what we're about to learn, meaning they don't have the same type of restrictive and halacha Moshe Sinai. They don't have. How do I talked to him about it? It was actually quite funny. It was last month was I at York? What is it today? Sunday. I was at York on Wednesday. Was Wednesday Yosef? No, Wednesday was Easter Chag. So I was there Wednesday, and that's when I last saw him. I was talking about Shechita with him. And I said, we have a lot of rules, and one of them is, take a look at this. Again, this is D'oraisa. Now, we're not necessarily going to hold like this halacha l'maisa, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But mi'ikaradin, all you need to do is shech the majority of one siman by a bird, and that you need to shech the majority of rov simani, the majority of the kind of the veshet for behema. Now, let me tell you a secret. If any shochet only does rov, no one's going to eat that animal. Right? So it's very nice that halacha Moshe Sinai, but really, 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 already the Gemara talks about it, the Shulchan Aruch says, that's nice that it's rov, we want all. Okay? Vida, ki shechita b'loshen kodesh, who, and what does the word shechita mean? What's the dictionary definition of shechita? Slaughtering. What's slaughtering? Who? Karat simone hatzavar. It's cutting the by the neck, the siman in the neck. Don't think that it's melitza, which is what's melitza? Melitza is not. What's it referring to here? Hang on. Here's he's using it. Here's used as a metaphor. What's Yudalit Tazayin? Okay, I'm not sure what the context is here. That's in Korach, no? I think so.
With the basar and slav.
That's Baloschat? Tesvav. Could we compare Tesvav is only is Korach? That's so Baloschat.
Yudbet is the beginning of Baloschat.
Yeah. Could be it's referring to. Well, look up after. Could be the Slav. Slav's Yud Aleph is the Yosasuf, right?
Yeah.
Again, when it comes to shechita, even by korbanos, it's the same definition. In the beginning, we were commanded only to korbanos. You wanted to eat meat, you could not eat flesheks by yourself. You always needed a partner, and the partner was the kohen. I mean, you could never eat meat on its own. You always needed to participate in some in ceremonial sacrificial component to it, right? Just like the shech, just like korban vata. And now we see for the first time it's permissible to eat meat in your backyard. So what does it mean? Just like I commanded you, just like I commanded you for korbanos. Eat as you see pleased. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with this because everyone likes to quote this. Rav Kook said that that it's not ideal to eat meat. Eventually, in times of Mashiach, we'll stop eating. Why? Because it's a taiva, it's a desire, and really we should work on our desires, right? We see maybe it's a negative thing. So usually we don't speak in positive terms about tavas nafshecha, right? So we see that meat, that's what at least, minimize the amount of meat. We don't see people being, there's a reason why specifically the Ben Samar eats a lot of meat. We don't look at meat, eating meat is such a wonderful thing, again, because it's outside of the korban realm. Okay. Lomar, she'atiram chulim b'chom ha'kom levad sheyezvuchim l'shetziva mitchila b'yosam klom korbanos v'zeu pshuto shemekra zel nachon. V'sham Rabbeinu niskavnu b'kach. And what does Rabbeinu mean for this? Shezicha ma kodshem b'shchita, v'chulim b'shchita. The mitzvah shchita mefresher mekan, and the rest is muveret medivei Rabbeinu b'Kabbalah. So when it says Rabbeinu b'Kabbalah, it doesn't mean Kabbalah like the Zohar. It means not like Moshe Sinai, some type of tradition of some sort. Okay. That was a bit of the introduction that we want to point out. Everything had to be ceremonial, everything had to be sacrificial until they made it to the land of Israel, and we see there's this connection. It's halacha Moshe Sinai, what you need to do. The way you shechted in the base of Mikdash, which is the same way you'll shech in your backyard without the obvious. By the way, there's actually So it's in your backyard. You don't do what's called zrikat adam or kabbalas adam, but what do? Kisui adam. Right. So there's a little bit of that component to it in your backyard. Okay, but kisui adam is not for behemoth. So for a chaya, midaraisa, midarabanan, it's for behemoth too. Okay, shechita, is it a mitzvah or is it a matir? What do I mean? If someone were to ask you, let's say you're writing Targum mitzvos. Okay, you got to come out with Taryag. So we have this Masorah, there's 630 mitzvos. But here's the problem. What is a mitzvah? What's the definition? What's included? What's subsumed under the 613? That, as we're all familiar with, is a big machlokas. Maybe 10% is a machlokas, 15% is a machlokas, right? 85% of the Rishonim agree. But the last little bit, what exactly the rules and what is and how you define the assays and the los assays. So, would you say that this should be considered, if you're writing a Taryag, should you include this as part of your Taryag mitzvos? What would you say? Is it mitzvah to shacht or not a mitzvah to shacht?
Shechting it for a korban.
Shechting for korban is going to be for sure for shlam, for sure mitzvah.
Shechting it just to eat.
So what's the pasuk? V'zavachta.
It shouldn't be a mitzvah. It should be something that's matir.
It's a matir.
Yeah.
So because what's the language here? V'zavachta mi bekorcha mitzoncha. Right? V'zavachta and you'll shecht. Offer a zavach. So is that an asay? Is that a matir? And that's the question that I wanted to ask. So take a look at Sefer Mitzvahs, the Rambam. Mitzvah Aseh 146. Ha mitzvah 146. He shetzivanu lishchot behema chaya va'of. So you'll notice right away the Rambam says, even though the pasuk, as I told you, is only tzvi va'ayal, which are chaya, it doesn't matter. No, for all animals in the, shall we say, larger animal English definition. Birds even. The only way you can eat them is with shchita. V'hu amru yitalev v'zavachta v'gorcha mitzorcha k'shevisicha. L'shon sifri v'zavachta mam ukudashim b'shchita v'chlim b'shchita kasher tzivisicha. Lamed, here we go, shinstav Moshe ha'haveshet v'alakana v'arov echad v'rov shnai b'bhema v'kvar yitparu mishpadei mitzvah zo later on in Masechet Chullin. According to the Rambam, there's a mitzvah aseh to shecht. And just to show you, if you take a look, in the Rambam's Mishnah Torah, this is a good trick. If you ever want to know where to compare things, go to Mishnah Torah as an introduction. He lists all the number of mitzvahs that are there. So take a look what he says. For the Rambam, there's 5 mitzvahs, positive biblical commandments embedded in shchita. What are they? There's 3 positive and 2 negative. Here we go. Lishchot, v'achar kach yochal. And that's interesting. The Rambam says shecht and eat. Right? Very interesting. He says shecht and eat. Right? Why? Because it says v'zavachta v'achalta. So for the Rambam, not everyone's going to agree. The shecht and to eat is a mitzvah. 2. So this is obviously the negative. Shelo lishchot otov et beno b'yom. We know there's a lav. To shecht 2 generations in the same day. Right, parent and a child. Lechasos adam chayav. So as I mentioned a few seconds ago, there's a doraisa to do kisur hadam or chayav, but a behema, which is a cow, for example, it's not derabanan. We still do it with a bracha. We do it with a bracha with derabanan. Sorry. Next, shelo likach em al banim. So that's shiloh haken. That's also part of the shechita package.
Does that also apply to chaya, or just that's only to?
What? No, that's only for of. It's only for enough. So by the way, if there's a negative shelo likach, and then there's, if you're going to do it, this is how you have to do it. Okay, that's for the Rambam. So, our issue is the first one, right? That's really what we're focusing on, right? And that is the shchot v'achar kach yochal. Okay, says the Rambam. Mitzvah say she yishchot mishi yirtzeh lechol basar behema chay va'of v'achar kach yochal shneimar zavachtem v'gab mitzoncha v'neimar b'buchor ba'amum ach kasher yochal etzivot hayal halamata shechaya kibehema linyan shchita. That the Gemara learns that even though the pasuk only says tzon bakar, we combine them together. Good morning. Ubov hu omer kasher yatzud tzayid chaya oof v'shafach adam lamesh shvichas adam oof k'shvichas adam v'cha. So the Rambam here is learning and comparing the two of shchita chaya v'oof and as well as by kisur hadam. We are taking a look, introduction to Masechet Chullin. We're talking about the obligation to do shchita and its sources. Comes along the Ramban, source number 7. He's not very happy. So we know, see, here's the problem. It's not fair, because the Rambam was first. Comes on the Ramban and gets to respond. The Rambam can't respond when he's not around anymore. But okay, that's where it goes. You have other people who try to defend the Rambam. So in this, there's a Sefer, the Rambam wrote a book called Sefer Mitzvos, and the Ramban had a few comments where he often elucidated, but more often than not, where he disagreed. So comes along the Ramban, and he's going to bring out, he has a number of rules. He says, listen, I'm not going to argue because I feel like arguing, because I'm like a mean guy. No, I'm arguing because I want to tell you there's a rationale behind why I disagree with the Rambam. You respect the Rambam, but you disagree with the Rambam. And so therefore, before he even disagrees, he has certain rules. And that's called the shoresh, right? Certain guiding principles that are going to guide why he's attacking the Rambam at certain times. Okay? And you'll notice a common denominator in shoresh aleph, daled, and vav. Right? And all of them will be connected to shchita. There's going to be something that's bothering the Ramban. So what is bothering the Ramban? Take a look. Okay, so he's talking about the Eruv. Like, this is, we'll get to our part in a couple lines. Okay. If you want to make are you obligated to make an Eruv? You don't have to make an Eruv. If you want to be able to eat Eruv Tavshilin, you're still referring to here, by the way. If you want to eat an Eruv Tavshilin, meaning you want to cook, or you want to join courtyards together, so this is the way to do it. But you're not obligated to. If you want to do it, this is the procedure how to do it. It's not a kumaseh. It's not, you must wear tefillin. No, that's a kumaseh, right? You must, right? Daven. V'chein v'yadayim. Ein mitzvata b'chiyuv klal. V'lo yitilach hachem el adam shitol yadav klal v'lachol ein otel yadav 10 times a day v'ocha and there's a mitzvah yoter mitzvah. You wash 10 times a day, you wash no times a day. It doesn't matter. Aval elu heter isserhein. It permits you. Dome lemitzvat hashchita. This is obviously why it's connected. So, too says the Ramban, just like shchita. Shetignu banami v'tziva l'shchita. Yes, there's a command for shchita. V'ditiku ba'leim al dishcha lo sagid lo shachit. If you look at sebehen lav haba michlal asay, if you can't do, okay. Now, there's also a lav haba michlal asay. What is it? What's the lav haba michlal asay? That is, so don't eat treif. Meaning, you must eat things that have been shechted properly. But obligated to shecht. Just obligated not to eat something that wasn't shechted. So lav haba michlal asay. Okay. The Ramban continues again, same idea. Ki balachot lo yimineh lav haba michlal asay. I'm not, any that has a lav haba michlal asay, any that has a negative that derives from the positive, it doesn't count it. Ken hadavar belavin she'ein behem mitzvah kagon tzipor tohora tochlo. It says in the Torah, eat your kosher tzipor. She'ein la'ochlo mina tzipor tohor shu mitzvah. Aval mitzvah hi ala tameya. V'hi balav. Shekevish kvar nimna. Belav acher. Since there's already a negative commandment, don't eat this. I'm not counting it. Aval ha'aseh hanemar b'parshia mehen v'hu mitzvah nimnahu k'shinyan b'shvut. Okay, I'm not so interested in. So again, when you have a we see here that the Ramban is attacking the Rambam and saying, listen, I want to be very clear. I want to be clear in how I define when I say there's an aseh, when I say there's a lot aseh. And in certain situations, I'm not going to include, you can't tell me, so shchita, are you obligated to do shchita? Do you have to do shchita? No, just in certain situations, one needs a shecht. And that's, we'll just see one more time. Take a look at the number 9. Fani rebo machloket gedola v'chat min hadeot to'eh below safek. In my opinion, I see this big machlokas, and no question in my mind, there's no safek. Sheish od lav va'aseh b'davar echad ela she'in shnehem mitzvah ki'in b'behema v'dagim v'ava miturim v'achlim v'asurin. Amar katuv behen aseh zot ha'beima asher tochlu. When the pasuk says, this is the animal that we eat, v'darshu shu mitzvah taseh. And we learn from here, that's mitzvah taseh. V'chein, so again, that's referring to eat this animal. V'chein, kol tzipor tohara tochlu. Asu otav mitzvah aseh. That is a mitzvah taseh. V'chein et zeh tochlu. So again, there's a positive commandment to eat these animals. V'davar yodua she'ina kavana lomar. Doesn't mean to tell us. So yes, it's true, there's a commandment to eat them. But it doesn't mean shebachlena behema, that when you eat them, or the fish, that you fulfill a meaning. We're obligated to eat the kosher animals, but don't tell me, says the Ramban, that when we eat them, we're fulfilling a commandment. That if we, right? And if we don't, if we see a kosher animal walking by and we don't hunt it down to eat, we violate a commandment. What are you talking about? Right? That's ridiculous. Because we know that if you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah and you don't do it, you violate it. And he says, that's ridiculous. He says, we're not going to say, oh, there goes, a cow. Imagine you're driving right out in you're driving on the highway and you see a cow. Whoa, we got to stop. We got a mitzvah. I say, do shchita. We can't stop. We can't, right? You can't pass by, ein marvin al mitzvos, right? Sorry, ein marvin al mitzvos. You have to do shchita now. Stop the car, right? Stop the trip. Good field trip, no? You never get anywhere, right? You have to shchita all the time. Every single person would have to be shochet, right? That's pretty awesome. Or fish. That'd really be, imagine if you had to take every fish that you saw. Right? That'd be very problematic. He says, and then he says, and then if you hunt them and you don't eat them, you transgress. He says, nah. It says, eat the kosher, you're not allowed to eat the tameim. Okay. Meaning, they're trying to tell you that if you eat the tamei ones, then you transgress and you violate a negative commandment. And yes, and then, okay, but it's a love about Mechlal Aseh. So there is an Aseh, but it's not the same type of Aseh that's the same as you must and are always obligated to do this. It's love about Mechlal Aseh, that there's a negative commandment, but yes, I will say there's a mitzvah Aseh here. There is a mitzvah Aseh, but it doesn't stand on its own. It's attached to a negative commandment. So therefore, ve'ilu ke'etzeh behem minyan harav michlal haramach mitzvot. And it's the Rambam counts as part of the 240 positive commandments, livdok b'sinei behema. So this is an amazing thing. That he said, the Rambam holds that there's a mitzvah to check simanim. Shneimar, zot b'mashu techlu, livdok b'sinei ha'of, livdok b'sinei chagavim, livdok b'sinei dagim. U'bal halachot, lo menab, but the Baal HaGedolah, the Bahag, didn't count them. Meaning, is there a mitzvah to check simanim? So you pick up the animal? Oh yeah, you chew your cut? Yeah, you spit feet? Okay. According to the Rambam, you fulfill the biblical commandment. That's pretty wild. Because you're bodek b'simanim. Some people say today you can fulfill that by looking for the COR. Check for COR, you have bodek b'simanim, right?
Would that be applicable even if you weren't planning to shech?
Oh, yes, it appears so. Yeah, right. That's the thing. You see, there's the positive commandment, just look for the simanim. That is in itself a...
So you're just walking around.
Walk around?
Hey, look, that's going to hector. That's going to hector.
But he didn't. The Bag didn't. Why? She'ein ba kumaseh. There's no kumaseh. Meaning, there's no kumaseh in doing shchita. You're just a love about Mechlal Aseh. There's no kumaseh. It doesn't stand on its own 2 feet. Or 4 feet. And therefore he says, he doesn't add. Therefore, there's a mitzvah to say, but it doesn't add to the 613. You fulfill a positive command when you do shchita, but it shouldn't count as one of the 248 positive commandments because it's connected to a negative commandment. And therefore, my rule is, says the Ramban, which he bases on the Bahag, I don't count shchita as a stand alone. It's a mitzvah to do, of course it's a mitzvah to do, but it doesn't stand of itself as one of the 613. So we see Machalker Rishonim, is shchita one of the 613 or not? Is it independent? Says the Ramban, it is not independent, in contrast to Maimonides. Okay, I'm not going to do number 10. That's basically what we said before. Okay, I want to do the second half. Let's just skip this mitzvah. I want to go to details of shechita. So this actually comes from our Gemara that we're going to start Galilee next week. Jump to 12, please. Amar Rav Yonah Marshamo. Kol tavach she'ino yodeh hilchot shechita asor lecho mishchitato. You cannot eat the shechita unless you know the guy knows what he's doing. That simple. There's once I don't remember who it was. To some extent, it doesn't really matter. There's a shochet in the local town in Europe. Went to, I believe it was a Chavetz Chaim, and said, "Listen, I need a new profession." He said, "Why?" He says, "Well, every week I'm so nervous that maybe the Jews on Shabbos are eating non-kosher chicken, non-kosher meat. I can't handle more. I need to change business. Too much pressure." He says, "Okay, so what do you want to do?" He says, "Okay, I want to go into business." He said, "Oh, question, how often do you go over the laws of shechita?" He says, if you regularly go over the laws of the shechita and the knife and the behemoths, every week, every month, just like you're supposed to do it. And have you learned all of Choshen Mishpat? You've gone over all of business, the laws of, Ona and the Poel and a Socher, and there's a lot that you have to know there as well. Because, so he says, I understand, you're baki in one thing, that's you have to go with. You haven't learned Choshen Mishpat, how can you go into business? So what do we see from here? First of all, we see here that there's a lot of business, a lot of halacha that applies to business that people aren't familiar with. But for our purposes, we see that it really takes a tremendous amount of focus. It really takes a tremendous amount of understanding to know hilchot shechita. Yes, it's nerve-wracking, I'm sure, for the shochet, but you become a baki in it, and we really see today very few people that really know shechita well. I happened to go to Chabura with a guy in half hour, which is why I only give shir till 11 o'clock. So he happens to be a shochet. He trained as a shochet. He no longer practices, but he sure has his knives before. Let me tell you, they're pretty serious, right? And it really requires a tremendous amount of knowledge. And you'll see why in a minute. Because take a look at the halacha Moshe Misena Bashchita. Here we go. Why? Why is it this so complicated? You think, I don't understand. Just take your knife and go, why is it so difficult? Here's the reason why. Here they are. And we're going to define them. I'm going to give you the English translation, then we're going to explain what they are. Shehiyah, Durasa, Chalada, Hagrama, V'ikur. So these are the 5 things of Shechita, and they are all Torah, Halacha, Moshe, Misinai. Torah Shabbat. Right? They're not, you can't tell me there's a pasuk, you can't tell me Halacha, Moshe, Misinai, these are the 5 things that you need to do. I shouldn't say 5 things to do. These are the 5 things that could puzzle your Shechita. Now, but we already said you have to shecht rov simanim, right? So that's a given. But not only, because here's the problem. For many of these things, as we're about to learn, especially the first 3, you can't tell if the shochet violated them or not. Because you're looking after the fact. You look after the fact. You see the windpipe. You see the trachea has been cut. Okay, it must be kosher. But that's the whole problem. It's not the end product. It's the process. So if you're not there at the process. So you have to trust the shochet. And that's what makes shechita very different. You need to trust, you're not there. The end product, you have no idea about anything, which is why it requires a tremendous amount of ne'emanut on the shochet, which is, of course, this whole idea of people becoming trustworthy, which is one of our main topics that we're going to deal with this year, is how can you eat when your mother gives you chicken? How can you eat it? How do you know it's kosher? Right? How are they able to eat things? Where's the proof that it's kosher? Okay, so we're going to talk about that, which is very important. Business meetings and people when they want to double wrap foods, and when they bring you kosher food, why does it have to be sealed? All these things, right? Which is one of the reasons why when I had the barbecue kosher food at York, why I stopped doing it was because you cannot leave unattended meat. Right? Kosher meat cannot be left unattended. So, okay, we'll get there. Let's go through what they all are. Shehiyah. What is Shehiyah? So Shehiyah, go down to the Sefer HaChinuch, will give us a Shehiyah. Second paragraph. What is Shehiyah? Inyan Shehiyah who? Kagon. Achar Shehit Chol Yishchot. Haveshet. So it comes on the Shochet and you start shechting. V'kodem shenishchot rubo, pasak nishchot. So again, before he does 48% he cuts, and then he takes a phone call. Responds to a text message. Falls asleep. Shehiyah means delaying. V'hi mshiyah b'afsakazo kishir shechita. Okay, how long are you allowed to delay for? So mi'ikar din, you're not allowed to delay for as long as they can do shchita. Perush kadesh shchitat ha'ur v'asimanim shel behema acheret kamota. So the answer is, what is shehiyah? The answer is depends. How long does it take to shacht a chicken? About a couple seconds. How long does it take to do a behema? Let's say 30 seconds. So it depends. Shehiyah delaying would be a couple seconds for a chicken, and it would be 30 seconds for an animal. I got news for you. We hold today, if the shochet does any shia for a second, no good. You can't be surprised by that. Right? We're machmer. But mikara din, whatever again the delay would be, you're not allowed to have. That's called shehiyah, delaying. Perush, kedesh, sorry. V'chen shechita behema da kavov. Okay. Next. Hadrasa. What is hadrasa? And again, by the way, you could never tell the shochet did shehiyah. Because, right, you don't know that he delayed in the middle. You can never tell. You just see that it's been cut. You have no idea. So again.
Like delaying, like while he's cutting.
Yeah, so he's cutting in the middle. So here's the neck.
Yeah.
We're going to see, basically, hadrasa is actually this. Hadrasa is going to tell you, I'll do it right now, has to be seesaw. Has to be this. You can't do this. It's called hadrasa. Pressing or sawing. Right? Has to be a sawing action. It can't be a pressing action. You can't tell. Once it's been severed, you have no idea what I did. Unless you were there and you saw a video, right, in slow motion, you could never tell. In high definition, right, you can never tell.
It's a tough call.
It's a tough call. You go to New York, they try to overturn the call, they can't tell, right? Just like he was definitely off second base on Friday, costly delays the game. So Bina Hadrasahu Misha Daras Asakin. Ate the shchita, it's definitely off the base. Definitely. Kemo Shochtin Atznun, Klamar, Shalo Holech Vehevi. Seesawing is called Holech Vehevi. That's what this is called. Holech Vehevi, Holech Vehevi. So you must shacht by seesaw action. Supposed to do this, pressing it through. Again, you need nemanut of the shochet. You can never tell after the fact. Next, the third one. This is a weird one. Chalada. V'inyan chalada hu shekibalnu b'shash shochtin tzerich lamar asakin migule. He has to take the knife. It has to be totally revealed. You'll see what I mean by this. So if you put the knife in the middle like this, and you shecht it this way, and then you went back this way, that's no good. That's called chalada. That you need to shecht it. See, it's totally, my knife is totally revealed, and I shecht this way. It's always revealed like this. Chalada means that you like start in the middle, you go this way, then you go back. You do this. No good. You have to go through it directly. You can't start in the middle and go to one of the ends. Right. Yeah. So that's what he says here. Hit min asakin tachat simon echad. So you shechted, or even, you shechted one, then you shechted ha'echad, v'shachad then you did the second one. Or afilu taman oto tachat ha'ur, v'shachad simon. Or you started by shechting, and you put the blade in the skin, and then you started shechting. No, it has to come from outside. You can't start in the middle of the neck. Okay, and again, you don't know. Once the process has been done, you have no idea what happened. You just see the end game. Once again, you can never tell. The next one is Hagrama. Yes, am I right? Yeah, Hagrama. What is Hagrama? Even though you do it from the neck, that you have to do it near the siman himself. You can't start from up here and go in an angle. Right? You can't start from way up, let's say by the head, and shecht down. Yes, at the end of the day you have cut the two siman and you start from all the way up here and you go all the way down. But you need to start by the neck, by parallel to the simanim. So that you could tell, by the way, afterwards. That the guy the cut starts from way too high. So the question is, why is the giraffe kosher? It appears to have the simanim.
Where do you cut it?
So, where'd you cut it? What do you mean? Just cut it anywhere on the neck. It has a very long simanim. What does it matter? You can cut, here's the neck of a giraffe, cut it here, cut it here, cut it here, cut it here. So the answer why giraffes we don't eat are because So it could be, appears, by the way, that you might not need a Masar for a giraffe because it has the simanim. And the second, the more practical reason why we don't need giraffe is not worth it. It costs a lot of money to hold down a giraffe. You can hold down an animal very easily. You put it in a clamp. Hold down a giraffe. Giraffes are extremely strong. It would not be efficient because it would take you a very long time to hold it down. It would be very expensive. Besides the fact that they're endangered or whatever.
Eat giraffes either.
What?
That's not really a thing to eat a giraffe.
I mean, it could be. I'm sure somewhere is a delicate. I'm sure it can eat it somewhere.
I've never heard of a place where.
It's because you live in Toronto.
Yeah, but you hear a place where people eat everything. I've never heard of people eating giraffe.
So go to South Africa. I don't know. Eat giraffes in South Africa. I'm sure some tribes eat giraffes. There's no question in my mind. So that's probably the other reason why we don't need giraffes. Is they're just totally inefficient, way too expensive to hold it down because they're so strong. You need tremendous amount. You spend a lot of your money just holding it down. Just not worth it. For the amount of meat that you get out of it, that's why we don't do that. It's not because of hagrama that we know where to start.
The meat would be very tough. Just wouldn't be very.
I guess I couldn't tell you. And what is the fifth is Akira. Where is it? Oh, right. He doesn't actually have it here. He called only 4 things. So I would say the fifth one. Rashi has it. That's right. I actually wrote it down. The fifth one, Rashi. He says here. Here, Ikur. What's Ikur? Okay, 2 possibilities. Before you do shchita, the simanim themselves broke, so you didn't break them. So already broken. It's like pre-cut. Pre-cut. That's inappropriate. It's already been ma'aker, right? It's been uprooted, right? It's already been uprooted on its own. You need to be ma'aker. You need to be the one to cut them. Can't be by themselves. Or the other one is, the possibility is, and this is what's quite famous, and that is, sheshachat asmani besakin peguma, that the knife had a pagam in it. That your knife wasn't really sharp enough, had a dull area, and that's the problem of ikur, which is why we have to check the knives afterwards, because of this. This is going to be a major topic for our purposes. And that's why all these things are quite complicated, very hard, unless you have a camera there watching to check afterwards, which is why you need to rely on them. Okay, I'm going to end with, in the last 5 minutes, I found something actually really interesting in the Haggadah. Here it is. Listen to this. Yosef Ometz in the Minhage Parnikopria, which is, somewhere. Parnikopria. Re'iti ma'kadmonim nochi nefesh shekodem shehitchil lilmod chulin b'yeshiva gazru tanit. They decreed a fast day before you began learning. It's Bahab tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's not Bahab because it's still Tishrei. Next week's Bahab. Tani va'atam shelo yikatreg hamastin al talmidei chachamim hamarim hilchot shechita batzmam. Because what happens? Because you learn chulin, you become I can do my own shechita, and so therefore to do a tani beforehand. V'chein nahag avim mori achasid zal shelamad im talmidav harif mesechet chulin ad kol nashona. Umuva b'sefer zikara min hagei achatam sofer shegazar tanid kodem shitchel limod mesechet chulin b'yeshivato. He also he goes why? So he doesn't bring the tam. So because the problem is once you start learning chulin, how can you eat this? How can you eat that? You become too machmir. You become too mekel. You become much more worry of what you put what you put into your mouth. So that's why we have to make sure that we learn it properly. Because God forbid we reach an incorrect conclusion, we could be dealing with non-kosher food, which is obviously problematic. Although we use the word, just want to make one clarification, we use the word treif. So it's worthwhile mention what's in an avela and a treifa. This was the last part of the introduction I wanted to deal with. What's in an avela and a treifa?
Isn't treif pig?
This is going to be very important also for our first stuff in the Gemara.
Isn't treif specifically pig?
So let's say I have a cow,
Yeah.
and the cow gets hit by a car. Is that treif or not treif? What is that? Treif or an avela?
Says move.
Okay, So the definition of a treifa is that it was shechted, kosher shchita, but we found something in it that determines that it will not live out the year. A nevela is hibaikar. What's the difference between them?
So treifa was he was going to die anyways.
No, it's nafka min halacha.
There's something wrong with it.
Can't eat either one. What's the difference? A nevela is mitame, a treifa is not. So, if you pick up, again, so in modern era, there is no nafka mina. But a nevela is mitame, and a treifa, since it was shechted, is not mitame. That's nafka mina, which today means nothing. So those who use the colloquial term, that's treif and that's treif, we don't really mean it. We actually should say that's an nevela. So you hear that we sometimes use them interchangeably. We often use them not interchangeably. For sure, you ask the non-religious world; many of them have heard of the term treif.
So oddly, both non-Christian would be a vela because they shoot them in the head.
Right, exactly. So, but a treifa really means because this is that's treif. You probably shouldn't say that's treif, but I say, that's a nevela, but we're going to look at you. Or you say, sure, that's like not kosher. That's pig, right? That's tameh. Tameim lahem, right? It's bezel lo tuchelu. Can't eat them. I just wanted to clarify that's worthwhile knowing. Also, we're going to eat it for the first daf. The first daf, the Gemara will deal with that. What?
I feel like people use the word muksa for everything.
Right, exactly. My kids, actually, it was so funny. I left my computer on over Shabbos by mistake, and I was watching part of the Jays game, and then I guess it continued showing. What late game was there Friday night? LA, Houston? Houston KC was later after the Jays.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize it was on. My kids, of course, discovered that it was on. And they said, is it muksa to watch the game? I said, guys, it's not muksa to watch the game. It's not appropriate to watch Shabbos. It's not muksa to watch the game. It's not appropriate. So it's when you just mentioned that. Show off. Little kids think everything's muksa. Writing on Shabbos is muksa. Right? Everything's muksa, right? So the muksa or it's mutter, right? Which is a funny, it's a funny definition.
Terminology.
But, right, terminology. So that's another example of treif. Is probably another one of those examples that we use. But muksa is much more important.
Muksa is just something you can't
Muksa can't move it. Actually, you're probably allowed to touch muksa. You can't move it. Tiltul.
Muksa means
there's no
purpose on Shabbos, right?
Right, there's no muksa. Right, huksa midata. There's no. Right, it's probably but muksa is probably only an isra tiltul. There's no isra negia by muksa. You can lean on a car probably, right? Not moving it. So, okay, let's end there for today. In Mitzvah Hashem next week, we're going to start with the meat and potatoes. And Daf Talmud Aleph. I'll send them Makoro for the next little while, and we'll go weiter. I encourage everyone, if you can, it's worthwhile. Just enhance the learning experience a little bit. It's always better to kind of, be holding by the Amud, by the Gemara. It'll make the shir a little bit more, interactive and whatnot. Okay, have a good day.